Hello, everybody. Chastity here. I'm so excited today because I am able to sit here. I wish it were in person, but this is going to work for me with Debbie Solaris. So, hi, Debbie.
Hi, everybody. It's good to
Oh,
be back. It's
it
like,
is. I know she's kind of been on a little. Well, I'd like to call it a hiatus, but it's a little ban
no,
from.
it's a forced band. I got myself in trouble. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, haven't we all in some way or another?
mhm.
I want to share a little bit about Debbie and how amazing it is for us to have her here on planet with us. Um, Debbie Solaris is an ET contactee. She's an interdimensional traveler and galactic historian. So this is really fantastic. After she had a fateful extraterrestrial contact experience a few years ago, Debbie awakened to her true star lineage and higher calling. So, through her ancestral connection with the Akashic records, she has been receiving downloads of galactic historical information and universal spiritual knowledge. I just want to pause there because this is big. Um, so, this has been coming in ever since for her. She feels that it's a big part of her mission while here on Earth to help awaken others to their own true divine selves and cosmic origins. Wow. So Debbie has recently been featured on Beyond the Beyond Belief show. I don't know if you guys caught this, but it's a George Noory show. Uh, Absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't caught it, go watch it. It's on Gaia TV, Consciousness Media. It showcased her extraterrestrial contact experiences and how that led her to her higher mission of helping all of us to remember and reconnect with our cosmic star heritage. And you also did a reading on George, like right there, which was
Yeah, I
really
did. Yeah, it was
cool.
on the spot. Yeah. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
it was I didn't know what to expect because I don't ever have preconceived notions when I do readings about people. I just kind of just go into the records and they just show me things. And it was really cool to see his whole story and just the big work he's been doing, for millennia. So
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I would have been shaking like inside my body, but you were so calm and so, not
I was
starstruck at
terrified
all.
actually
Were
for
you?
the whole show. I was
I
like,
mean, you were
I
so
mean, I was
calm.
like, oh my God, I'm on TV. It's just, and uh and I don't know, it's like whenever I go on a show like that, it's like my higher self takes over. And so the calmness I don't think comes from me, it comes from the higher self.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Isn't that fantastic? I have a question. You guys can also find Debbie on YouTube and kind of listen to the work she does. So then you'll understand, why I'm asking some of these questions that I want to ask her. So she has, it's yeah. So check out her YouTube channel, and I'll put all the links in and all that good stuff. But I have so many questions, Debbie, because so many people out there, even people who are assisting in healing, all of these things, they don't really see or understand what our multi-dimensional bodies are or realities are. And so I don't even know how to ask this question, but like, is there uh, how many, when you go into these Akashic records, and I'm going to have you explain that, kind of what those are a little bit better, but do you see like all the different dimensional aspects, like all the different bodies? And, like, is there an 8D me, a 14D me, a 24D me, right? That kind of thing. Do you see those in the records?
Yeah, sometimes I do. A lot of times, just to make things a little bit simpler for my clients, I try to go in kind of in a linear progression as much as I can,
Mhm.
which is sometimes not all that linear because when we're in the higher dimensions, time isn't very linear.
Right.
We can have lives simultaneous to each other, but a lot of times, I will tell my client, oh yeah, you were very, high dimensional in this particular life or in this particular incarnation, or and a lot of times, especially if a soul is a parallel soul, it's like unfolding a fan. It's just like, different, layers of that person that keeps, showing up. And so a lot of times, I don't think people realize just how exhausting it can be to do an Akashic reading, because you're getting kind of sensory overload sometimes of different lives, of what that person is feeling, what they're going through. You get audio messages, you get visual, you got a whole lot going on at once. And then, I'm the person that has to kind of interpret, what is coming through, so sometimes it might take me a while, like, I'm like, well, I'm kind of seeing this, I'm, trying to follow, the images that I'm seeing. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can definitely access all that from the records.
You just mentioned parallel souls. So that's a really curious term for me, because does that mean that all of these different dimensions are parallel souls, or does that mean within one dimension there can be a parallel soul? Did I ask that correctly?
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, it's okay.
The framework. The framework of it. I think it's one soul, but it's like multi aspects of that one soul.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like the one soul is having simultaneous lives in different dimensions. Obviously, third dimension is just one dimension. It's, we are we're all multi-dimensional souls, but I have some souls that I do readings for that are really multi-dimensional beyond, the average, starseed or light workers. So, so doing a reading for them is a little more challenging, because I'm having to explain what a parallel soul is to them. And I just had one, I think it was the day before yesterday. And this gal was having a lot of, I think really interesting experiences. And I was having to explain to her, that, you're not like a typical starseed. You've been in multiple dimensions, multiple star systems, and you're still in multiple dimensions, so.
And so you can see then when, so I've noticed time opening up completely in a new way, which means to me, we've opened up new dimensions that like everybody has access to. So this has been even confusing. Well, not confusing. It's been actually very exciting for myself, right? But do you ever find that because maybe somebody is too shut down? I don't know if this is if I'm asking it correctly, but is not open to their multi-dimensional probability. Do you not see some things because of that, or can you see past that with the records?
It depends on the individual. I actually get that question a lot. It's like, it depends on the individual. A lot of times I'll check in with their guides as I'm working in their records, and the guides will say, yes, they're ready for this information, or no, they're not ready for this information. Because sometimes I get some really strange stuff, it's pretty strange. And people, I think sometimes are not quite at the point, consciously speaking, to understand what it is I'm trying to, explain to them. So, so sometimes I get like nothing, it's like, okay, the guides are saying, no, I don't have access to this information. Other people, it's like, hey, I am able to access that information, and it kind of blows their mind a little bit, but at the same time, I think it's for their highest good. So, so as long as it's for their highest good, then I feel okay in sharing the information. But yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, there are times where you just don't get anything. You're just like, you know, guides are saying no, you know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so
I've had that as well. I can see something plain as day, but I'm
mhm,
getting the don't share this. I'm
mhm.
like, oh, okay. Something
Sometimes you get clients that have gone through trauma,
Mhm.
especially like extreme trauma in past lives or in their childhood. And you don't want to re-traumatize them, you know, by, you know, giving them, you know, the blow by blow details
Yeah.
of maybe some sex slavery on, you know,
Yeah.
on a planet in Draco or something, you know. So
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, so you definitely, I think, have to be very discerning about what information you share.
Yeah. I agree. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
You can definitely fracture a soul, which is, you know, part of the healing process is we're trying to call back and heal those fractured pieces, right? So
Mhm.
we don't want to cause any more fracturing.
Yeah.
So when I was much younger, I don't know, late teens maybe, so
Mhm.
a long time ago, this I did this meditation, and I uh, was brought to like a records room, and
Mhm.
they looked like scrolls, and
Mm.
I pulled a scroll out and opened it. And at the time, and then I could like see in like, I don't know, like a, not a cauldron, but some type of chalice, something that came. Is that, do you think that is like you know, like,
Accessing
um,
the records or
yeah, yeah, I was accessing records of some sort, but I don't really know what they are. Um, I didn't know like if you can like describe what does it look like when you go and access the records. Is it a room you go to? Is it just something you feel is done?
I think it's different for different people. I think because I hear people describe the records in, you know, myriad of different ways, and the way I experience it might be very different than the way you experience it. I think it's just due to our frame of reference or
Yeah,
what is more meaningful for us.
yeah,
So, for instance, when I go into the records, it just looks very crystalline. It's like shards of crystals, and I'm focusing in on that person's crystal, and then it's like the information just kind of flows out. Okay.
oh,
For other people, they see books, they see scrolls, they see this large room, you know, with, you know, lots of shelves. I just think it's whatever is meaningful for us, but I do want to reiterate that anybody can access the records. I mean, it's and actually anybody can access the Galactic Akashic records. It's not like it's off limits or, you know, I got a special password or anything. It's
yeah,
not like that at all. I think any of us, I think we have to, our consciousness has to be prepared to access the higher realms,
yeah,
because you are kind of going a layer further when you're accessing the Akashic, you know, the Galactic Akashic records.
yeah.
But and I do hope to teach a course in that. It's going to be hopefully later this year. I still have to develop the course, but I get so many people asking me, can you teach a Galactic Akashic readings course? And I keep thinking, yeah, I need to do something. So,
That's
uh,
one
yeah,
of the
so
classes I'm waiting for. I
yeah, I
know.
think everybody's kind of waiting for it. It's just I need to get myself in gear and just format the whole thing. But
Yeah.
it's like the information's all up here, but it's just have
Mhm.
to, you know, have to format it. You know what I mean? But
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Mm.
but yeah, it's actually not as hard as it sounds. It just takes practice. It just, you know, and I think what happens is, you know, when people try to access the Akashic records in the beginning anyway, they'll get pieces of images,
Yeah.
and they don't, I think they get over, because it can be really overwhelming when you first go into the records. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, you got the whole universe, you know, information from the whole universe right there, you know. So so they're getting different pieces of images, and they're not really sticking with the image. Okay. So they'll, you know, a lot of times I'll get people report back to me that, you know, they say, well, the yeah, I tried to access the records, but all I got is these different images and it didn't make any sense. And you almost have to pick one image and just follow it. Just really stick with it. Because if you don't stay focused on it, it's gonna move past. You know, it's kind of like it just moves past. So so I always tell, you know, my clients, yeah, just don't worry about all the different images. Just pick one, you know, at least in the beginning, and just follow that and see if it's a story. See what planet you're on, you know, see who are the beings that are, you know, showing up in this image. And then you start following like a storyline, you know, that you'll start seeing kind of a story unfold. It's kind of like watching a video on Netflix. It's like, you know, you pick a certain video and you're kind of following the story. And after a while, you get to the point where you can do like 5 at once, you know. But in the beginning, I always tell people just focus on one image and just stick with it and see where it takes you.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a question that I think about often, and I don't know if you have an answer for this, and it's okay if you don't, but are the halls of Amenti and the records, the Akashic records, are those the same thing?
I don't think I've ever heard the term Menti.
It's Amenti, E-M
Amenti.
or A-M-E-N-T.
Oh, okay. Okay, I
Yeah.
have heard of that. Yeah, I do think it's the same thing. I think it's like, you know, Galactic Center. There's many different names for Galactic Center.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh, that's where you said I'm from
yeah,
Galactic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Galactic Center. And I think for the records, there's many different names for the records. The Bible calls it the Book of Life, you know. So I never realized, you know, until after I started working with the records, oh, that's what the Bible was talking about.
Isn't that so funny?
I know. It's like, oh, that's what the Bible was talking about. Because they made it sound like it was like such a big deal, you know, like
Sure.
you had access to the Book of Life, you know, you were just like something really special, you know. But I was thinking, oh, I guess I must be special because I have, you know, now I have access to the Book of Life. But
enter the ego.
yeah, enter the ego. Yeah. So but
Oh,
actually no big deal. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. I think back in those days, you know, back in the ancient times, there's probably very, very few people that had access to the records or had the consciousness to even go to that point, with a few exceptions. I think, you know, obviously some of the prophets were downloading information. And then you had people like Nostradamus and, you know, Edgar Casey that was definitely accessing the records. But I think in this time, in, you know, this day and time, more and more of us have access to it. It's not a really, you know, like I said, it's not anything, no big deal anymore.
Do you think that's because there are more starseeds that have come for this mission? You think that's why? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. And I think just the overall consciousness of the planet has been upgrading, you know, multitude, you know, it's I mean, it's definitely upgraded to you know, beyond, you know, even 50 years ago, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading something that was really interesting, you know, just about how consciousness has changed, you know, throughout, you know, even here on Earth. Yeah, I remember it was, I can't remember which Greek author it was. Oh, it was Homer. Homer in the Odyssey used to describe the seas as being dark, or the skies as being kind of gray. And I'm sorry, let me do something popping up there. Sorry. And it was like they didn't even realize the sky was blue. And it was like, so the consciousness back in the ancient times must have been at the point where even certain colors weren't really showing up, or people didn't recognize them. But yet they used blue quite a bit in the Egyptian times. You know, they used a lot of blue in the paintings and some of the jewelry. Okay. So I was thinking, did the consciousness kind of lowered a bit, during, ancient Greece and ancient Rome, maybe, so, and even in the Middle Ages, I noticed that even the depictions of animals and things just seemed very off,
Yeah.
like the consciousness just wasn't there.
Well, when was it? When was it for our listeners that our DNA was unplugged and we were heavily infiltrated? When was that? Did
That
that
was
happen?
actually, I think that, as far as a timeline, it was around the time when the Anunnaki was really starting to colonize Earth. And it may have been around Atlantean times, maybe even before Atlantean times. But uh, but basically, their planet was dying because Sirius C blew up. Okay, I think it was a natural disaster. Actually, I don't think it was due to war or anything like that. But yeah, there used to be 3 Sirius stars. Now there's only 2, but there used to be a Sirius C.
Yeah.
Sirius C blew up. Nibiru, which was one of the planets that revolved around Sirius C, kind of got off orbit and was kind of on a one-way track to our solar system. And I guess the Anunnaki felt, okay, I guess we need to find another place to live. Let's live on Earth. And that would have been okay. But then they decided, oh, look at all these indigenous beings on Earth. Let's tinker around with their genetics and let's dumb them down so we can make them into slaves and they can go into the mines and mine gold. So I do think Eric von Vanadem and what was the other one? Zechariah Sitchin. I think some of the things they talked about was actually accurate.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes, but it was kind of like they took the DNA from 12 strand. So even Sasquatch and Yeti have 12 strand DNA because that indigenous humans were supposed to have 12 strand DNA and they were supposed to live in the 5th dimension. And they took the human DNA and they disbanded 10 of the 12 strands and really dumbed down the genetics to where they were just smart enough to take orders. But it had an adverse effect because people went from living 500-year lives to, I don't even think they were living 40 years.
No, I think it was like really fantastic to like live to 30, 33, like, that
Oh
was.
yeah, you were like an oldster if you were like 35 years old back in, and so people were living very short lives. I think people were dying, women were dying in childbirth a lot. My understanding from the records is that the Anunnaki reached out to their Syrian cousins, in A and B, and asked for assistance. And the Syrian A people were the more technical people out of the, I think, the two star systems, and they were genetic masters. They were masters at genetics. So they sent teams of scientists to try to upgrade the human genetics here on Earth. They weren't able to turn back on the 10 strands that were turned off, but they inserted quite a bit of their own genetics so that Earth humans can at least ascend. Okay. So
may I ask you a question here? This is really curious because in session work, and I have a lot of my clients asking me this question, or some that are just downright irritated with the Syrians, right? And thinking that they created and caused a lot of the issues. What's your take on that in terms of that? Because if they helped participate in, well, the Anunnaki did, but the Syrians are somehow involved in part of what has happened on our planet, right? And the ones that we have contact with now, I mean, I think some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, please, some of them were moved back off planet to not infiltrate. And now the ones that we have interacting with us today, I think, are of the light or benevolent, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Sirius, I think a lot of people tend to categorize star people like they're all good, like, like all Syrians are good, all Pleiadians are good, all reptilians are bad. And it doesn't work like that, okay? I mean, they had different factions in Sirius, and some of them had their own agendas, that maybe wasn't for the greatest good, I mean, it was, it is the way it is. Similar with the Pleiadians, there's some very rogue Pleiadian groups that they're definitely not benevolent, so just because you see a Pleiadian, in a vision and you're channeling them, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a good Pleiadian. But with the Syrians, going back to your original question, yeah, I think there was factions, and I think the Syrians, they went through their own evolution. They had conflicts in the beginning of their history. They had nefarious groups, that got involved with Earth. So I would say not all of them were benevolent. Not all of them had, Earth's, highest, mission or Earth's highest good in mind. But I do think most of the Syrian groups that we're interacting with right now are part of the Galactic Federation, and they are, they understand their part in what happened with Earth, and they do want to assist us, so yeah, I can understand why people are annoyed with the Syrians, because they made mistakes, that's and maybe they purposely, did some things that, weren't for the highest good. But I don't know. I kind of think that I think they're trying to make restitution or reparations for it now.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me as well. And now you're bringing up Galactic Federation, and that's kind of a stinger for a lot of people as well, right? And so
I get a lot of questions about that too. Yeah. I do think there's dark forces that that I think they present themselves as the Galactic Federation, but they're not the true Galactic Federation. Okay.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I just, who I worked with just the other day, as a matter of fact, is the Interdimensional Free World Councils. So is that part of, is that like kind of a faction of the Galactic Federation?
Yeah, I haven't heard of them before, but yeah, I think it definitely sounds like they could be. They have a lot of different councils. I mean, it's kind of hard to keep up with them all.
It is. And it's, people don't realize it's not even just these planets that we see or that we talk about. Yeah. And I think that that's really important to understand is, not everybody is really only a Pleiadian or an Arcturian or a Syrian or a Lyran. There are so many, there are life forms they're everywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Blows my mind. I see things sometimes in sessions. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a freaking sci-fi movie here. Like I've gone mad, right? But it's like, and then having to discern a hologram from a not hologram. But okay, my next question is, thank you so much. This is just amazing that we're
thank you. I'm glad I'm helping out in some way. So yeah.
This is fun because people have questions, right? And some of them are embarrassed to ask. I have no issue with embarrassment. I don't care if I'm banned from anything. I am curious what your favorite, do you have a favorite planet or a favorite star seed that you really enjoy working with?
That's a hard question to answer because it's kind of like asking, well, who's your favorite kid?
Who's your best friend, right?
Who's your best friend? Or because I think I love all different star seeds for their different qualities, and there's probably certain star systems that really gives me a warm fuzzy feeling when I get to work with people that are from these star systems. And Merope and the Pleiades is one of them. I love Merope. It's just such a it's a matriarchal divine feminine society. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Wonder Woman, the Amazonians, so except they were all priestesses and they were all, working with, the deep feminine mysteries, and one of their planets has 3 moons. So every time I go into the records, I see the planet with the 3 moons. And so that's one of my favorites. And I love the Arcturians, obviously, because I'm an Arcturian starseed. But yeah, there's certain star systems that I think I just kind of think there's something special about them, and people that have connections with these star systems. They come. Andromeda Galaxy is another one. I have a lot of admiration for Andromeda Galaxy souls because they left their galaxy to come help us here in the Milky Way. And and they made like a huge, they used to be very, very high, like 20th dimension, type of beings. And they came here to assist with the descent into physicality, this whole experimentation of, separation from source. And they come in with such wonderful gifts. But yet they put up with so much. They pick the hardest lives. They pick the hardest lessons. So I just have this great appreciation. Orion Nebula souls. These are very high dimensional souls that come from, actually not from Orion constellation. They come from the nebula, which is a different location. So these are the individuals that are most connected to source. And they usually come with, complete love consciousness, so usually they tend to be higher dimensional, even here on Earth, they're always working for the good of others. They're always of service, so when I get to work with these souls, I think, wow, how exciting. We got some Orion Nebula souls helping us out. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Gosh, when you see somebody, can you identify if they're a starseed or not just by seeing them?
Oh yeah, immediately. Yeah. Yeah, usually it's very rarely do I run across somebody and I'm kind of like, not sure where they're from, I usually pick it up pretty quickly. It's reading the auric field. And this is a Zoom webinar that I hope to offer. I was hoping to offer it this month, but like, again, I think everything's been so off kilter that it's probably going to be next month. But I am going to offer a Zoom webinar course on discerning extraterrestrial frequencies. And usually it's based off of the frequency and even some of the colors that you might see in somebody's aura. So part of the training that one has to do is learn how to really see through their third eye. And that'll be one of the exercises we'll be working on with the course. But I don't know if you've ever taken classes where they teach you how to read somebody's aura, or I don't know if
I haven't. I teach people how to heal themselves and how to identify things and work with other people, but I guess I wouldn't know exactly how to teach that, right? And you're right. It goes, you have to be able to focus right from the third eye. So
it takes practice. It's not like something that comes right away, but a lot of times I'll tell people, one of my teachers and mentors used to teach it was kind of like Hogwarts, school of magic. And she was teaching kids and adults, different, basic spiritual skills. And one of the skills was aura reading. And she would have us in a room and we would look at people up against a white wall or a light colored wall. and we would kind of squint our eyes a little bit and just kind of look at them for a while, see if any colors come up. What was really fascinating about that exercise was that when we drew the pictures of the people afterwards and just put our colors, almost everybody got the same colors for a certain individual. It was really, really interesting. Nobody was off, you know, everybody got kind of similar colors.
Very fascinating.
So when you're reading extraterrestrial frequency, a lot of times you will see certain colors associated with certain star races.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And different than someone that is, you know, there's a lot of question of like, how, like if someone is an earth seed, what does that mean? If you're an earth seed, you just don't come from another galaxy originally. You were born and bred here on earth.
Yeah, it's pretty much, they're younger souls usually, and they have only had experiences on earth. And a lot of times these people have had a lot of lives on earth. A lot of times with star seeds, we kind of contract out how many lives we want to have. So we're not necessarily getting caught up in the false reincarnation matrix, okay? But usually, I have done readings for some earth souls. I mean, they're very aware and awakened earth souls, but usually I'll tell them, you're an earth soul. And they said, yeah, I know. I haven't been anywhere else. So they're kind of like, they're okay with it. They're not like disappointed that they're not from the Pleiades, you know? So usually they're like, yeah, I know I'm an earth soul, you know? But I always get excited when I'm working with earth souls, because it's like, oh yes, the consciousness of the planet is starting to raise if they're coming to me for an Akashic reading, you know? So
that's, I would take it as very exciting as well. It's fascinating where we're going. And so I don't know if you've had this question before, but I'm curious, is there an Akashic record for planets?
Oh, absolutely.
So like, oh my gosh, I thought so, but I've never asked. I only just started working with planetary energies, right? But you know, I know in a session I've had a conversation with you before. I'm like, wow, I'm skipping all over it. I'm going right here. I don't want to mess around with what anybody or anything else has to say. And so finally, I'm like, all right, what do you have to say? All right, what do you have to say? Okay, I'll take in little bits at a time. But but with
actually there's plants have Akashic records, animals have Akashic records. I mean, it's,
oh my gosh,
it's like multi-level. I mean, that's why I think when people first start working with the records, they're so overwhelmed. It's just like they get these massive downloads, you know, so because there's so much. My Akashic teacher taught me, if you're getting like too much information at once, use like a mental dial and dial down. Just ask your guides to get a stream, like a steady stream, rather than you know, so much information, because otherwise you'll be exhausted after 15 minutes, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes, I always ask my guides, I'm like, can you just speak to me like I'm 4 years old? Like, and then sometimes, you know, I'll get like cartoon pictures or something a little bit ridiculous, but you know, I'm like, I just want to understand it. I want, you know, so I can then explain it to somebody else. But okay, so I was going to say, this is where I was going to go. With the Akashic records, have you just for fun, like pulled Earth's Akashic record and looked at what's going on right now, and you know, like, and you know where the planet is going, whether it be for consciousness or situational, like what does that look like right now?
When I've tried to do that recently, I get a lot of timelines kind of collapsing onto each other and changing, and some timelines that are being canceled out. And so there's like a lot going on. That's why the energies are just so frenetic right now. I mean, it's just, and things just seem really insane, you know, in our reality. But, and I do think like the mandala effects, you know, people have been talking about mandala effects for a few years, is because these timelines are just collapsing onto each other. And so there's certain details that I think get kind of shifted, you know, when this happens. As far as the current events, I do think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I think we're having a lot of assistance from the before mentioned Galactic Federation and the Galactic groups. I I don't think it's going to happen as fast as people think it's going to. I think we're going to be going through a few months of just complete insanity. And
Yep, I agree with you there. I don't see anything clearing up till like June or July. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
me
That's
neither.
me
Me neither.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just,
seeing earliest, and I don't know why the records keep showing me August, September, but
yeah. Yeah, that's actually where I feel more comfortable as well. But
yeah.
I'm like, don't expect anything to start shifting until June or July. And then, it's just going to be it's going to be a ride. That's what I
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Um,
I could say some things, but I won't. But
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna be quite bizarre. But yeah, it's yeah. I just keep seeing many things happening behind the scenes. There's many galactic groups that are assisting us right now. I know the Syrians and the Procyon people have been on the planet. They've been shutting down some of the underground, dumbs,
yeah,
the dumbs, and they've been shutting down some reptilian bases. And a lot of us aren't even aware of it, but this has been going on. There's been human trafficking rings that have been shut down. So there's a lot going on. I think there's been a lot of arrests. Even just the other night, the Vatican was in complete darkness, and I was thinking, oh, there's something going on, because the Vatican is never that dark. Okay.
no,
Yeah.
isn't that I'm excited, and I do grid work as well, as you know, and so
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff cleaned out. Some people are saying that the big guys are already off planet. I think but we still have a mess to clean up, right? We still have a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff here. And that's not the whole bunch of stuff that's going to be taken care of by fall. We're talking years of rehabilitation, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
It's not going to be as quick as, there's not going to be like one great event and
yeah,
everything gets revealed and everybody gets raptured up into the new
yeah,
earth. I know there were certain practitioners that used to talk about that, and I was just like, oh no, that's not what the records were showing me. No.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I think that would just be too shocking for people. I don't know.
Well, soul fracturing.
Yeah.
I think that would just cause it would cause a big issue. It would be no different than unplugging our DNA again when we're working. So like it would
Yeah,
just,
I know. It's kind of like, let's not shock the humans too much, Earth humans,
yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, I do think, I mean, this is what I keep seeing in the records. I know David Wilcox has talked about this, and some, maybe even Colin has talked about this, but I do, I mean, I'm almost certain that within this decade, if not early next decade, we're going to have actual physical ET visitation. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
I mean, it is, we are going to have a starship come down, ETs come out, and everybody's going to know. It's not going
yep,
to be a big secret anymore.
yeah, yep,
And I keep thinking it might be Alpha Centaurians or maybe Alcedians who are, they're the closest races, maybe Venusians. But speaking of planetary records, I did do a planetary check on Venus, because that was an interesting planet. Oh my God.
there was some crazy stuff going on there,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
there was a lot of dimensional shifts. And then I think there was some issues on the planet, so many of the Venusians ended up immigrating to Alpha Centauri, and yeah, it was a lot of stuff going on. And some of my clients were part of that. They were part of that migration. So I tell them, well, you're actually from Venus, but you're actually Alpha Centaurian now, and so a lot of people don't understand that. When I'm doing a reading, it's not just, oh, you're Lyran, or oh, you're Pleiadian. It's usually various facets of different lifetimes, and they may have had in other star systems, in many different star systems. So
yeah, Yeah. And we're not just one way. The star seeds
No,
aren't just like one, I'm not
that
just,
would just be too easy. So
wouldn't it be? And it
yeah.
would make so much sense.
Yeah, I know that would just be too, no, it's just, we're all, and I hate the term old soul because I feel like we're all soul shards of source. We've all had various experiences, both, incarnating and not incarnating.
Mhm.
And so I think we're all old souls. It's just there's some souls that were assigned to Earth and
Yeah.
they just had incarnations on Earth. There's other souls that started off in Lyra, and
Yeah.
they had a lot of, they were around for, incarnating for millions of years, so yeah, so I don't even really like that term, but I know a lot of people use it. So a lot of times with most of my clients, I'm saying, yeah, you're an old soul. You're an old soul because
Mhm.
if you were around, even in the Pleiades or Sirius, yeah, you're pretty old. So
Yeah. 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 I think we're ancient. Yeah. Don't you think?
yeah, we're all ancient. We're all soul shards of source. We're all
Yeah.
having, our own individual soul experiences. So
Yeah. I
and we've
just,
been in a lot of different places.
yep. And
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. I think it's so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Um, I know we're going to get close to wrapping up time, and I feel like everything that I want to ask is going to take so long. But you know what there's another really exciting thing that's happening for you. So you get to be interviewed on Gaia again
Yeah.
with the
Woohoo!
Open Mind Show. The Open Mind Show, and I just love the name of that, Open Minds.
Mine
So
with
tell us
Regina
a bit.
Meredith. Yeah. So she's going to ask me the hard questions. So I'm like
Oh,
gearing up for those, like the hard questions. Yeah. So no, I love Regina and I like her style. I think she gets really deep. And so I was very excited to be invited on her show. And there's even the possibilities of even more shows beyond that. So, I mean, I don't know yet, but I know for sure the Open Minds because I am doing the taping on the 20th. So that's
oh,
next week. Oh my
that's,
gosh.
yeah,
Yes.
that's next week. Oh my
Next
gosh,
week.
you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes and ears peeled. I'll post stuff since you're still on a hiatus. You're on a ban, aren't you? Still like
Just on Facebook. I'm
on
actually
Facebook.
still on Instagram.
Okay.
I am. People can actually reach me through my website. And they can reach me even on my Facebook business page. I don't think they shut that down. So
Not yet.
as far as personal readings, I am going to open my calendar up probably in February. It's going to be bookings for May and June. That's how far out I'm booked out. But if people are interested in, doing a personal reading with me, I do love doing personal readings. It's just that I'm kind of feeling like there's going to be a point where, and I think this happens with every, a spiritual teacher that they they get kind of shifted off into other projects, and then the personal readings are not quite as prominent as
Yeah.
they once were, which I
Yeah.
think is just a natural progression for a lot of us. But I am still doing them. Like I said, I will be opening up the calendar for May and June. And if you're interested, just reach out to me.
Yeah, please do, you guys. I have had a couple of different readings from Debbie, and I'll share with you just briefly what that did for me just by hearing confirmation of maybe what I suspected or thought. And things I didn't know really opened me up and allowed more information to come in,
Hmm.
because sometimes we just block ourselves and go, oh, well, maybe I am, or maybe I'm not, or I don't really know if I'm from here, or if that's real, or if I've gone mad. And then when you have somebody who is as clear as Debbie is with her communication, and that just hits you. And it's like it activated me to be able to go, oh my gosh. So, I mean, the information just started pouring in instead of trickling in. So I was like,
Yeah, it does act as an act. That's why I always tell my clients, oh, this is an activation. Your life is not going to be the same after this reading. And I'm not saying that to be egotistical. It
no, it's
really is not
true.
the same. You know, it's
Yeah.
because I hear back from my clients and they say, oh my gosh, I'm accessing my higher guides all the time. I'm
Yep.
getting massive downloads. I mean, there's, you know, I'm opening up to meet more gifts than I even thought I would, and you know, they start really working their missions. So I'm just a facilitator of the process. You know, it's not really even coming from me. It's coming from, you know, their higher self and their Akashic records and their higher guides. So so yeah, it is quite an experience, and yeah, you definitely won't be the same. So
Nope, you
yeah,
definitely won't. And
yeah,
that's a blessing. We're designed to bump into each other to activate the codes that we have within, and that's definitely something that Debbie has done and been able to touch so many of us. And you can hear a lot of her readings on our YouTube channel. Again, I'm going to put everything below. So do look below for her YouTube and all of her other connections, the dates for her Open Mind show. So we can send her blessings on the recording, which is going to be on the 20th. And also to be able to connect in, because maybe some of you haven't seen the George Noory show as well. So
yeah, that was a fun show. It went really fast. I mean, it was fast. I mean, those shows are usually like, you know, 40 minutes or whatever.
yeah,
But it was a lot of information in 40 minutes.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it felt like 10 minutes, right? So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like,
It kind of felt like it went by too fast because everybody's like, "Oh, I was hoping there was more." You know, it's like they're like, you know, "Oh, I was hoping there's going to be more," and it's like, "Oh, the show's finished." You know, but they do so many. I mean, Gaia, they record so many different shows, and they do like several recordings in one day. So you know, they have to keep it pretty quick and fast. But yeah, just being at Gaia is an experience. Just the headquarters. I live only about an hour's drive from
oh, nice.
from their headquarters in Louisville, Colorado, and just the building itself is I don't know, it's just phenomenal. They got these huge crystals everywhere.
Oh,
I mean, it's just like just going and seeing the crystals is an experience. And
mm,
one time I got the chance to attend like a customer appreciation party, and it was so much fun. And the people there are really awesome. I know Gaia has somewhat of a mixed reputation right now, but pretty much everybody I worked with in Gaia has just been really fantastic. I'm actually, I have personal friends now, you know, with some of the employees, and it's a great place to visit if you ever get a chance to visit.
well, I'll let you know when I'm in Colorado. So
Yeah, we'll definitely have to go up there. Yeah,
I would
yeah,
love it.
it
I
range.
would love it.
Yeah, it's yeah. They even have like a labyrinth, and they have their own organic garden. I mean,
Oh,
it's yeah, they do things right there. It's really pretty cool.
kind of like how I see the wellness centers that are going to start being built, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's kind of like they're doing like a prototype of what I think we're going to be seeing across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty soon.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
yeah.
I appreciate you. I love you. I'm
Thank
so
you.
thankful.
Thank you for having me on, even though I'm banned. You know, you know, it's
Yeah.
like shame on me. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
for being a conscious, awakened person and talking about stuff maybe I shouldn't have, but I don't know.
Heaven forbid,
Yeah,
right? Heaven
yeah,
forbid we speak truth.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just going to send you so much love and say thank you. I really appreciate you and the love that you have for humanity and not
Thank
just for this planet, but for the other universes as well. Like it spills out of you and it's beautiful. So thank you.
you. Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. I'll chat with you soon. Much love.
Bye bye.
Bye, sweetie. Okay, one sec.